And so I spent the end of 2016 really getting to know the organization. I was asked to be on the advisory board in St. Louis. And just so you guys know, what that means is in order for someone to participate in a special needs individual to have a buddy, their school has to have a chapter. Okay, so in in Missouri, in 2016, we started with 3 chapters. At the beginning of 16, by the end, there were 16 chapters. And I said, well, what's it going to take to get a chapter at my kid's school so that I can get my Gussie a buddy? And they said, well, we need to raise funds so that we can hire program directors so that we can order more chapters. And they asked me to be a part of the advisory board, and I said, will that expedite this process? They said, yes. I said, I'm in. So I selfishly and admittedly jumped on board because I wanted a buddy for my Gussie. And so I'll fast forward just a little bit. Kelly had asked me to be on the, my husband Mike and I, to be the honorary chairs of the annual Best Buddies Friendship Walk, which actually was last Saturday. And so Mike and I were humbled and honored, and of course we were super excited to do so. And in just a second here, we're going to show you a quick video clip. So I told the story just about how we got involved in the organization. Mike did some thank yous, and then all of a sudden, Gus took the microphone from me. I went, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to take this microphone back and apologize to 500 people for what comes out of his mouth because he has no filter whatsoever. So I'm going to show you, Mickey's going to show a video clip for you guys here. This is what came out of his mouth after Mike and I spoke.
Because she's the one who...
Hold on just one sec, there we go.
I just said to all of you, we just opened a chapter in Rockwood, and I'm an ambassador. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I want to say thank you to, first off, my mother, because she's the one who is basically responsible for bringing this chapter into my school district. But most importantly, I want to thank all the staff members who work at Best Buddies, because thanks to people like you, kids like me and my brother, they get to have friends. I'm really hoping that this can become more of an international presence, and I'm hoping that everybody can have friends in their schools. Thank you.
I did not apologize for that. We were super proud of him. He truly came from the heart. We had no idea that he was going to do that. And I looked at him and I said, Gussie, when did you decide, or why did you grab the microphone? He said, because I wanted to say something. And I said, when did you decide you were going to do that? And he said, a while ago. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? He goes, because I didn't want to. I'm like, okay. All right. So just to backtrack a quick minute, it was just, well, by now it was just 3 weeks ago that we got his chapter at his school officially approved and launched. And so when I was at the school 3 weeks ago and met with Christine Udy, who is she runs special school district out of Gus's school, and she told me that we got the official nod and that we were live. Needless to say, I cried, I was excited. I came home and I gathered the kids and Mike, and I said, thank you guys so much for all your support. I know what we've been doing with Best Buddies has been very time-consuming. It's taken a lot of energy, and it's all been worth it because we just found out today that we got the approval and we're live with the chapter. And so the family was excited. Gus came up to me afterwards and he goes, Mama, thank you so much. This is the nicest thing you've ever done for me. Now I get to have a friend. So things like that, it's like, oh my God, it makes it all worth it. It was amazing. So that's what Gus was referring to about getting the chapter opened at his school. So one more thing I wanted to talk with you about, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to our guests. So when I was at the school 2 days later for the official launch, so the president, vice president, secretary treasurer of the chapter for Eureka High School, which are all 16 and 17-year-olds, we're there. And Gussie, so these are some pictures from the walk. So there's the 5 of us. This was, Mike had one of his trucks there with the flag and then the honor guard. There's the guys. And then this next picture I think is pretty darn cool. The chapter at Eureka by this time had been open for less than 2 weeks, and that's the group from that high school that showed up to support Best Buddies. These are 16 and 17-year-old kids, and it was pouring down rain and 40 degrees this morning, and that's the turnout that we got from that chapter. Thought it was pretty amazing. So, let me give you a quick story. So Gus, since I started getting involved with Best Buddies, Gus understood, he was so excited, at least 3 times a week. Mom, do I get my buddy this week? Mom, what's the name of my buddy? I'm like, honey, until your chapter is open here, I can't get you a buddy, but I'm working towards it. So he kept telling me, probably for the last 4 or 5 months, Mom, I made my own buddy. I'm like, what do you mean you made your own buddy? And he said, there's a boy in my school named Colin. In a gym class, I helped Colin out. And I said, oh, well, what do you and Colin talk about? He goes, Colin doesn't talk, Mom. I'm like, oh, okay. So I knew of Colin, and I knew that Gus helped him. So 2 weeks ago when we went for the launch, it was myself, our chapter individuals, our chapter president and participants, and then it was also Will Macon, who is from Best Buddies, Tennessee, who works with the organization there, but he's from St. Louis, so he came as well. So Gus comes up to me and he says, Mom, Colin's here. I want you to meet Colin, right? His friend that he helps. And so when I ran over to meet him, this is Colin. Can you go to the pictures, Nikki? Nope. That's Colin. So Colin is absolutely adorable. He is such a sweetheart. And when I walked up, Gus goes, Colin, this is my mom. And Colin just kind of looked at his paraprofessional who's with him all day, just kind of looked at him. And when his paraprofessional did sign language to him that I was Gus's mom, Colin looked at me and he goes, and he walked up to me and he gave me a big hug and rested his head right here. That's about where Colin lands. It was the sweetest thing. So this is Gus's buddy, Colin. And then just yesterday, I got a video clip of that we're going to show here in just a second of Gus and Colin at gym. And so 5th hour is gym class, and there's a girl named Natalie. She's a junior or senior, and she helps the special needs kids during gym class. So she ends up taking a video of Gus interacting with Colin. It's just a minute and a half.
Scooping up the wriggly worms and bopping them on the head. Down came the good fairy. Little rabbit foo-foo, I don't like your attitude. Scooping up the wriggly worms and bopping them on the head. You've got 2 more chances to change, and if you don't, I'm going to turn you into a goonie. Scooping up the tigers and bopping them on the head. Down came the good fairy. Whee! Rabbit foo-foo, I don't like your attitude. Scooping up the tigers and bopping them on the head. You've got 1 more chance to change, and if you don't, I'm going to turn you into a goonie. Rabbit foo-foo, walking through the forest, scooping up the goblins and bopping them on the head. Down came the good fairy. Whee! Little rabbit foo-foo, I don't like your attitude. Scooping up the goblins and bopping them on the head. You've got no chances left, so I'm going to turn you into a goonie.
So the reason reason I wanted to show that video is because it just absolutely warmed my heart. That while Gus has his own issues and he's been waiting anxiously for his own buddy, he understood the value of bringing something to someone else's world that needs that. So he became his own version of a buddy to someone else who has even more special needs than he does. And it completely warmed my heart and thought, you know what, that's what the mission of Best Buddies is all about. It's about inclusion in whatever version that can look like for these kids. And I can't tell you the impact that it makes on these kids and their families. I mean, Mike and I shed more tears of joy about this, and this is our world. We've lived it for 15 years, and we still cry all the time. Tears of joy when you see how these kids make an impact on each other. And honestly, the individuals who are the normal functioning peers get as much, if not more, out of the relationships than the individuals with the intellectual or developmental delays. So I'd love to bring to the stage now David Quillen and Deanna. So David is the Senior Vice President of Operations, Global Mission, and Development for Best Buddies. And then Deanna is one of our ambassadors. And so I wanted to start by just kind of giving the personal version from someone who lives in this world day to day, and then let David and Deanna speak at a higher level about Best Buddies.
Perfect. Best Buddies is super proud of the work that we're doing around the world. And we are a global volunteer movement that really is changing the world for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I know Dawn talked a lot about one of our first pillars, which is friendship. And we have 2,200 chapters of Best Buddies worldwide that are establishing and putting people together in mutually enriching one-to-one friendships. In addition to the friendship pillar, we also work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in finding them jobs. And it's the types of jobs of what they dream about and the things that they want to accomplish. So we have individuals working at places like the NBA, at the NFL Network, at MasterCard, at Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, hotels, retail, technology. We have someone that works at Google, at Dell, at the Apple Store. So just so amazing in terms of what types of jobs that we're able to get for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then our third pillar is leadership. And we work a lot with our participants, all of our participants, talking to them about what it means to be a leader and how to be a good public speaker and how to be a self-advocate. And so some of our individuals actually go through specific trainings where they're able to practice delivering and sharing their story. And a lot of individuals with disabilities, when they're in schools, the teachers spend a lot of time talking to them about what it means to take your own transportation or to do your laundry and those life skills. But no one ever talks to them about what it means to be a leader. And if you know high school and college campuses around the country, that's pretty much a conversation that most individuals have from their teachers. They're hearing about what it means to be a leader. And so Best Buddies is providing those programs. And to date, we have made an impact in over 1 million people's lives. And we want to continue to change the world for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities with this mission. So there's no one better to be able to talk about how Best Buddies has changed their lives than our participants. And so I'm really excited to have Dina Baldwin here with us. We drove over from West Palm Beach, and I've known Dina Baldwin for almost 9 years now.
Oh yeah, 9 years.
And it's amazing to see how much that she has grown and her life has changed from being a part of Best Buddies. So Dina, do you want to share your story?
Oh yes, why not?
Okay.
Are you guys ready to walk in the world? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. My name is Dina Baldwin, and you can call me Turbo. That is my nickname around the school. I am fast as lightning when I swim in waves. A Best Buddy has changed my life in so many wonderful ways. I have a lot of friends at school. I have a job that I love. I have attended internship, training and today, and I am a backer. I have a lot to alter the word. I am strong woman with big dreams. People like me want to work. We want to part of the community. We have gifts and abilities. A best buddy brings a light to the table. Who are alone through the power. Friendship, jobs, and energy. We make dreams come true. Communities need to see people like me for my abilities. I know that when someone believes in you, it is a lot easier to believe in yourself. Inclusion means that I am part of the community. I can work hard and earn a paycheck and be myself. See me for my abilities. With your support, together, we will change the world.
Hear, hear.
We have still lots of places that we need to get Best Buddies to. Even right here in Southwest Florida, we don't have an office, so we're hoping to get more programs in this part of Florida, and certainly looking for more support and help to get things off the ground and support more people in Missouri and in so many different communities around the world. I just want to show you this quick little video because it's super powerful in terms of what we're doing and talking about unlocking the potential.
What are my dreams? Can I be a translator? Can I be a singer? I do. Aren't we all afraid and lonely some days?
I've been told.
What can I do? But what can I do?
historically have been, I know I've worked a lot with Mrs. Schreiber in the past, who was the founder of Special Olympics, and she often would say these words to me, and they've stayed with me throughout my entire career with Best Buddies, is that this is a group of people who, by far, are the most maligned and disenfranchised around the world. They're isolated in their communities, they're isolated in their classrooms at schools, and that's why this work for Best Buddies is so, so important. They're a group of people who are made fun of by presidents, by world leaders, and we still have a long way to go to helping get these individuals working. The unemployment rate is 85% for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so this is a group of people who I know firsthand, they want to work, they're dependable, they're loyal, they have a lot to be able to offer companies. And I also know that they're terrific friends and outstanding leaders. So with your help and with your support, we'd love to be able to continue this incredible mission of changing the world for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I know just as a brother myself, I have 2 siblings with intellectual disabilities. We're really looking forward to continuing to make this change and really just change the world through the power of friendship. So thank you so much for your time. We're so grateful to you, Dr. Hill, for being able to share this mission with each of you. And if you guys have questions or anything else.
Make a check too.
To Best Buddies International. Yeah, to Best Buddies International. Yeah, I have some forms. Like I think I have with me some gift envelopes. I could give that to you, and I have some brochures about Best Buddies, and we're going to share some Post-it notes with everybody so that you have those. And any other questions or anything?
And I'm here all.
Yeah, Dawn's going to be here all week.
I'll be here all weekend, so I can take donations as well if anybody's interested. Sean.
No.
Do you have an office in Tampa?
We do. That's actually my home. My parents, my brother and sister live in Tampa, and I actually started the chapter at the University of South Florida in 1991.
So I'm on the board of a school that specializes in kids with anxiety, severity, ADHD, stuff like that. I need to talk.
Yes,
Awesome.
yeah, definitely. Let's
Thank
share
you.
that for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick story in support of the fact that that the world today is so ready for Best Buddies. Our niece has Down syndrome, a very severe case. She can't talk. She's 20 now. And they did have Special Olympics up in Minnesota. Did not have the Best Buddies program. But the millennium generation is totally different than the way I grew up. I didn't grow up, purposely not having a heart for others, but never thinking about it. My niece went to a normal high school. They did have special classes and that sort of thing, but she was invited to everything. She was part of everything. The kids, she was involved in the sports and they helped with everything, and she was voted homecoming queen. So the millennium generation is ready for us to bring this in and give them more tools to make this happen. They have hearts bigger than I think we had when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure, thank you so much.
Does anybody? Nancy? Oh, thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much.
We could take 5 minutes and make this really easy for you. People just wanted to give you a chance.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And again, what these donations do, help us hire program directors to open more chapters. They also send people like Dina to our leadership conference, which is in June.
July
in
Indiana University.
You can tell this will be my first one.
Indiana University.
So to help them develop those leadership skills that David was speaking about earlier. Does anybody else have any questions about Best Buddies? No. Thank you all so much. We so appreciate it.
It's amazing, it really is. Touching lives make a difference. Brett Klein, come on up.
No.
You never know who's going to get called up in this thing. We're going to break at 3, so hang in there. at you from time to time. My experience been about 50% of the time, people don't realize it's a coincidence. They just say, oh, that's interesting, and going about their way. Another 25% may kind of follow up a little bit. And about 25% thought it can be life-changing. So I had a meeting with a guy at the Ritz-Carlton there in St. Louis one day. As I got there, as he was wrapping up that meeting, this guy was standing there. We exchanged cards, and that's kind of the extent of it, Steve. That's all we did. One thing led to another, and it just got an amazing story. So, first of all, this is Brett Klein from St. Louis, Missouri. First of all, your background, growing up and in your career before you made this switch. You can sit down for a moment.
Okay, that'd be great. It's great to be here in Naples. This is my first Eagle Summit. I don't know why I'm so nervous, Tom. I had as Tom mentioned, I had the blessing, and God winked in a big way to have Tom come into my life when he did. I was going through a pretty significant transitionary period, personally, professionally, spiritually. And Tom has been immensely valuable in my life for the last year or so. I grew up in a military family. My dad, West Point grad, class of '66. It's a famous class, Long Gray Line, served a year in Vietnam. This class is infamous because of the number of fellow classmates that died in Vietnam. I think 1/3 of his classmates died during the Vietnam conflict. So I grew up in a military family. On average, moved about every 3 years. I had an opportunity to live in Germany for 3 years. It was fantastic. My father retired after 26 years. He went and charted a different course, new profession. I ended up going to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. From there, got into the gaming and hospitality industry, where kind of continued my move every 2 to 3 years. Took a brief stint to get my MBA and a graduate degree at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And
why Edinburgh? It's kind of outside the 9 dots. Right, Doug? Outside the 9 dots.
I had taken my GMAT and I was looking at programs here in the U.S. and I thought, what would be a good way to differentiate myself from others that graduated with obviously great programs here in the U.S. But did some due diligence and found Edinburgh had a good reputation, and I think everybody looks at the rankings of business schools to determine which one they wanted to go to, and it was fairly good within the Financial Times business school rankings. And Edinburgh is a beautiful city. If any of you guys have been there, it's not a bad place to live for a couple years. And I had a great experience. I had 36 different countries represented through 108 students that I went to school with.
So before you moved to St. Louis, how many times had you moved?
Oh boy, more than I can count on fingers and toes, probably a couple times over. And just the continuation of the moves as I left graduate school. My wife and I were married 16 years ago. We moved 8 times in 16 years.
All these moves with the same wife?
Same wife, yes. Same wife.
She'll be here tomorrow night, right?
Yep, she's here. She's on the beach right now with a chair and an umbrella and reading a book. Yeah. So it's just been a whirlwind. And what brought us to St. Louis, we were living overseas in China for 3 years, and we were done. It was about planting some roots. She grew up in the St. Louis area, a little bit west of St. Louis, a town called Marthasville near Washington. And it was really for our kids. Our oldest is 14, and I guess you can do the math. If we've moved 8 times in 16 years, he's been with us at every step of the way, in every move. So we wanted to have some longevity. We wanted to have a place that we could, ultimately our kids could call home later in life.
So what was your main job prior to that, when you say the hospitality industry, but what did you really do?
I grew up in the marketing side of the companies that I've worked with. There are Harrah's Entertainment, Caesars, and Las Vegas Sands.
I think I've heard of those. Yeah.
They're pretty big organizations, and I was fortunate enough to work in lots of different marketing disciplines. I raised my hand for every opportunity that there was, which is probably why we moved so much. The last year and a half, I was working remotely for a company based in Las Vegas as their chief marketing officer, a technology company. And just 2 months ago, decided to step away and transition and do something on my own. So I'm in early stages of building out my own company and consulting practice to start with.
What would that look like if you had your magic wand?
Well, right now it's setting it up as a fractional chief marketing officer practice, working with a handful of customers or clients or partners, I guess is a better way to describe it, at one time. And I'm really focused on relationships. It's not about transactions. It's not about working on a project and then kind of saying farewell and hope goodbye and hope you do well. It's really about a longer-term relationship and how I can work with company leaders, entrepreneurs, any size company, but stay with them for a long period of time and help them grow.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Is that okay, Nancy?
Is this a shameless plug? I have started. Yes, I have officially started on the book writing journey, thanks to Nancy. We were introduced about a month ago and have had an opportunity to start the process with her and look forward to getting started.
So anything, if you look in your crystal ball beyond what you're currently doing, anything else that travel, family, things?
It's a lot about family. The 20 years, you're a little bit off-centered in terms of work-life balance. I don't mind putting in a hard day's work, but it was, not being home for dinners during the week, especially in the industry that I was in. A lot of it is about working Saturday nights and being there on holidays because that's when most of your customers happen to be there. So I missed out on a lot. And so for me, what's most important is focusing on the family.
The kid's age?
I have an oldest, he's 14. He's going to be a freshman in high school next year, it's hard to believe. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, Aiden, Avery, and Reese.
All right, let's hear it for Brett Klein. Is there a Jim Canfield in the audience? A Jim Canfield? Let's hear it for Jim Canfield from San Diego. I think most of you know that I'm going to be, when I retire at age 90, Tammy, I'm going to be a weather forecaster in San Diego. Trying to stay in touch with people like Jim. Jim, how did we meet?
I think the first time was at a group meeting. I was visiting someone's group and you spoke. And then I was involved as a chair first with what was then Tech and later Vistage. And then I was an executive at Vistage for a number of years. And we met again there, and I introduced you to the CEO at the time, who I think was one of the least impressed people with you that you've ever met.
I even spoke to his group. I forget what group he was in.
Larry Cassidy's group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so here's the CEO of Vistage. By that time, I'd done, I don't know, 400, 500 presentations, maintaining about a 4.7. And so Jim took me into his office and kind of tell me, Tom does this and does that, and the guy kind of like, well, so what? What's the big deal?
He was a so what kind of guy.
I talked for 2.5 hours in his group. How many times did he say anything? 0.
Yep.
0. So anyhow, that was an interesting thing you never forget. Vistage, Sean. So then what happened? You left Vistage.
Left Vistage and went to Renaissance Executive Forums, which is another CEO peer group. And Tom came and spoke to our group and was very influential there, and I appreciated that very much.
How are they different from Vistage?
It's funny, people ask that a lot when I was running the different companies, and from a member perspective, I always say not that much. You're surrounded by 10, 12, 14 people who really know and understand your business, give really great input, and I would say that members come away with the same experience, making better decisions, reducing the isolation they feel as a CEO or executive, getting personal and professional growth by way of their participation in the group, and not feeling like they can make the changes they want to make inside the businesses. The biggest difference in Renaissance was on the other side of the table. The people who worked with the members actually owned a business in their market. We used a franchise model to do that, so they were able to build a business building the peer groups instead of just working as an independent contractor like most tech chairs do.
Who started it? Who started Renaissance?
Yeah, two guys, Ed Bastarash and Jim Fontanella, and they're still the owners today.
You had a South American.
Yes, we were actually larger than Vistage in South America, which was saying something. Had a really strong partner in Lima, Peru, who helped get that across. We were in 14 countries in South America with about almost 1,000 members there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long were you there? 10 years?
A little over 10 years, yeah.
And then what are you doing now?
Yeah, so just, well, I'm not really sure. I have an idea. So I've, for a number of Vistage members in the room, right? How many people either are or were in Vistage for a while? So anybody have Craig Kramers speak to your group? Right? Craig Kramers wrote a book called CEO Tools. He was, like Tom, did 50 or 100 Vistage talks a year. We figure that of all the talks he did, he spoke to almost 10,000 members over the years. And about 2 years ago, he died suddenly of a heart attack. He was the only speaker to ever be Speaker of the Year twice in the Vistage system, and that's a pretty competitive place to be. So I heard about this, that he had died, and then about 2 years later, I got a note saying that this group had bought the content and was trying to revive it, and they had built online tools with the content. And they were fine, but I just thought what was missing was a face, heart, and a voice for the content, that's really what made it special. So I reached out and found out it was an accounting firm, of all things, that had bought it. And I said, if you're ever looking for somebody that might speak on this topic, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And things, kind of bumped along for a bit. And it turns out that what the company wasn't just what I was picturing, which was a small little accounting firm in Atlanta. They were a pretty large organization, about an $80 million company with 450 people. And they really had a passion for this content. And if you don't mind, I'll tell the story because I know you love connections and how they work, and I think that's kind of what when you say God winks. So here's the little story. So I reached out, didn't really go anywhere, and then it starts to pick up traction. Well, it turns out the CEO of the firm, which is really an advisory firm more like an Accenture, was a member of a Vistage group. And also in the group is a son of my mentor for the last 15 years, Red Scott, from Florida. So Kelly's in the group. So the chair of the group is Bud Scott, who hired me as a chair 23 years earlier in Memphis, where I lived, in 1994. So Richard, the CEO of the accounting firm, is presenting that they bought this content and they have this idea, but they think that it hasn't gone anywhere on the tools. They really need somebody to be kind of the face of this content. And Bud looks at him and goes, well, I know who you ought to get, but you probably can't get him. He's running another peer group company, but Jim Canfield would be perfect for this. And Kelly Scott goes, Jim Canfield, how do you know him? He and my dad were friends. So the little triangulation occurred, and anyway, I ended up there. It's a great little firm. The firm rebranded earlier this year as Aprio. They're an amazing organization with a really visionary CEO. And we're taking this CEO Tools content. If you know anybody familiar with or involved in Gazelles, or EOS and Traction, Wickham, the idea is that we want to try and take the CEO Tools content and create a coaching and consulting business out of it, the way that some of those books had created these coaching models. And the way we see it is we'll rewrite the book, and we're working with Nancy to hopefully be able to rewrite the book together. I'll be doing some speaking. We're rebuilding a whole line of subscription-based tools with the content. And then later this year, we'll introduce a coaching certification process for the content.
So I have to encourage you to write a book. You're on your path.
Well, at least I'm helping rewrite one, and then I think there's probably another one in me after that.
Tell me about the personal side of your family.
Yeah.
And you grew up in Memphis, right?
I started in Memphis, moved to San Diego about 15 years ago. I just remarried 3 years ago to my wife, Paige. I have 2 children, a daughter 27 and a son 23. My daughter is a sales manager for a hotel group. But I would say, as important as that is, what she, you were talking about the millennials having a heart. She has gotten involved in a charity called Labs and More that does dog rescue. They started out rescuing labs who got too big for the families who thought they were cute when they were a puppy. And now it's all dogs. In the last 4 years, they've rescued 10,000 dogs. Rescued and placed 10,000 dogs. So, on Saturdays when I used to be, I think I just hung around the house and maybe we went out and did something or played with cars on the Saturdays. Every Saturday she's running an adoption event. She's on the board of directors, and the charity tells me that it wouldn't run without her. So pretty amazing for a 27-year-old. We ought to get her to come to one of the summits. My son's 23. He's graduating in finance at Cal State Long Beach. And like some of the others in the room, Paige, when we were married, had a few kids also. So she had 3. So we've got her oldest daughter who's in property management, and her middle daughter who just graduated pre-med and is applying for medical schools, and her youngest who's graduating at Chico up in Northern California. Everybody's from 22 to 27, so we're really blessed that they're all moving in the right direction and doing good things. Mom and Dad's still alive and living in Memphis.
Really?
Yep.
And where's their summit next fall, do you know?
I'm hearing that it's in Memphis. Have you announced the location yet?
Yeah. Memphis.
I mean, the hotel?
Yeah.
Where are you going to
be? You know what it is?
No.
Yeah.
Peabody?
Yeah.
Well, you got to be at the Peabody. Everybody knows, right? Ducks? But do you know how the Ducks ended up in the lobby?
Do what?
Do you know how the Ducks ended up in that lobby fountain?
Yeah, but tell them.
So,
it's a great story.
So back in the days, when these kinds of things were allowed, they used live decoys. So they had ducks that they would take out and put out, just like if you hunt ducks today, you put out a plastic floating duck. Well, back then they would put a weight on a duck and it would sit in the pond. And they had brought the live decoys in on a day that in addition to hunting, there had been some imbibing of alcoholic spirits. And the general manager, whose name was Schutz, deposited the ducks in the fountain, and they've been there ever since.
So they're famous for the ducks going through the lobby.
Yes, every morning, mid-morning, the elevator doors open, a red carpet is laid out to a giant marble fountain in the lobby. It's one of the largest fountains carved out of a single block of travertine marble, the way I understand it. And the red carpet is rolled out, and a handler opens the doors and with his cane guides the ducks down the red carpet. They jump in, spend the day there, and then the same thing in reverse in the evenings. And the original handler, things stay around in Memphis. The original handler started that in 72, I think. He did it until he was 94 years old. His name was Edward Pembroke, and they still speak of him in great reverence. And just a sidebar, one of my first jobs out of college, I worked for a gift store called John Simmons, and my job was to try and sell corporate gifts in addition to other things that I did. And I was calling on the Peabody, and I said, well, you guys just got reopened, and you've just redone this thing, spent millions of dollars. What are you going to do for your Christmas decorations? And they hadn't thought of it. So I sold them their first Christmas tree. In fact, I sold them 25 Christmas trees because they needed one for every meeting room and every public space. And the one for the lobby, when you see the lobby, I want you to remember this story. It's like 4 stories tall. And had it all delivered and boxes of ornaments. And I said, well, here's everything. And they go, great. When are you putting it up? When are you installing it? We had a little miscommunication. I thought I was selling it to them. They thought that I sold it installed. So we got ladders and 5 of my friends. It was a real Tom Sawyer deal. And my parents showed up. We installed amateur installation of the largest Christmas tree ever in Memphis in a public place in this in the lobby.
So Christmas. October 20, 21, 22, we're going to be in the famous Memphis, Tennessee town.
You got to do it, and you got to go to the pyramid if you haven't been already. There's a giant pyramid. It's 600 feet tall, and it's the world's largest Bass Pro Shop. It's quite a structure and quite an event.
And the tallest self-standing elevator.
Tallest freestanding elevator in North America.
Yeah. Let's hear it for Jim Canfield. dogs, I grew up on a farm. We had all kinds of dogs. We had 36 cats at one time on the farm until my dad said go hunt them. Our sister didn't like that. So in my neighborhood, dogs love me. If you have a dog and I come to your house, the dog will come over and lay on my feet and rub against my leg. But there's so much trouble. There's more trouble than a wife in some ways. And so when I'm walking my neighborhood where 3/4 of people walk a dog and they're picking up poop, I'll stop and say, gosh, I wish I had time to help you out. Not a dog lover. I love dogs, I don't want to be around them. Okay, turn to your table mates. Everybody face each other. We're going to take 5 minutes here. No, 10 minutes. Start one end of the table. I want you to think, as you think back over your life, what was one thing you did that made a total difference other than marrying Amber? Like we're talking about best buddies. What a huge difference. What a kind of difference. You think back over your life. So introduce yourself if you don't already know, and then share one thing that you did to make a difference in somebody's life. Terry Lammer's neighbor, friend, rescued a baby out of a sinking car. The baby floated to the top. And so, you know, what? It doesn't have to be a heroic thing. It's something. Okay? Have at it. You got 10 minutes. Introduce yourself and tell us.